Welcome to Tech Brothers with Amir. In this video, we are going to learn a very common scenario where we get multiple files in one of the folder, and then what we do, we need to load these files into the SQL Server Table that we are creating right here, and then move these files once they are loaded to SQL Server Table. Then we have to move them to the archive folder, and we have to create a zip file for all these files. So this is exactly what we are doing here. I have all those points written here, and I don't want to waste your time here just reading through. So what we have to do, we will be using Foreach Loop and a script task in this one, and we will be using .NET Framework 4.5 in script task, and we will learn how to change it, and then we will use a assembly called system.io.compression.FileSystem that give us the classes that can be used to zip those files. So let's go to the demo and perform this demo. These all points as scenario will be also available on the link I'm going to put in the description, so you can go ahead and copy this. Also the script we will use in this package will be available at that link as well. So open SSDT, SQL Server Data Tools or bids, whatever you have, and then click on SSIS Packages, new SSIS package, and here we will say load multiple files and zip them. You can probably give better name than me, so that's fine. First of all, I always recommend creating variables or parameters for your input folders, output folders, archive folders, and all those kind of things. I'm using SSIS 2012, and I'm going to create the parameters. If you are still using a package deployment, you can go ahead and create the variable, doesn't matter. But the goal is so we can change the value of parameters or variable by using the configuration when our package will be deployed to the UAT, QA, or prod. So you don't have to make changes in the package itself. So let's go to parameters, and here I'm going to create two parameters. First of all, we will be creating input folder parameter, string. Let's get the path for this folder. So this is the input folder path. Next, what we want to do, we want to create a archive folder, and this is going to be string as well. So let's go and get the archive folder path. Now we have it. Let's go back here. Let's come to the control flow and bring the Foreach Loop Container here, so we can read the files and load to SQL Server Table. So let's configure the Foreach Loop. Go to collections, and here we have different type of enumerators. I'm using for each file enumerator. So in the expressions, I don't want to give a path here, because my path can change according to the environment. So I have to go to expressions and use the variable or parameter. I'm going to use the parameter in this case, and if you have created the variable, you can use the variable. So we'll be using input folder here, and we want to read all the files, so it is ***, or we can use .txt. In my case, we have only .txt files, so I can use those. And next part is we can get fully qualified path. That's fine with me. I can get that, and we can use it, or we can use file name and extension, and then we have to use the input parameter and this new variable in the connection manager. Let's get the fully qualified path. Excuse me. That will give us everything. So it will give us the path with the file name and extension. Go to the variable mapping. Here we are going to create a new variable called file name, and the index is 0 because it's the only variable we have, so it starts with index 0. If you have multiple, then you will be going with 1, 2, 3 and all that. Hit OK. Now let's bring the data flow task here. Let's go to the flat file source, as we are reading the data from flat files. So flat file source, make a connection to one of the file we have in the input folder. So browse to input folder, this PC, C drive, input folder, and then you can use any file what you like, because these files will change when we will iterate by using the for each loop. So that's fine. Just configure your flat file connection manager, go to advanced. Now here we can tell ID is varchar, but it is not. We want to change to the integer, so I did that. And the name, I'm fine, I can change to 100 if you want. So we are good. Go to preview, hit OK, all good. Return null values from source as null values in the data flow. If we are getting some blank values and we want to convert them to the null, this is where we need to check this box. Go to columns, hit OK. Next part is we will be loading this data to the SQL Server Table. We will be using OLEDB destination here, and then we can go ahead and create new and use the connection. If it is there, we have to provide the SQL Server name and database. If you click here, and then you have to provide SQL Server name and database to create a connection. This video can be very short. I could have just used the technique to zip them, but what I want to do, I want anybody to go ahead who is performing this operation very first time, how to load the files and then zip them, and he can follow step by step, because sometimes it is easy for people who knows that, but if somebody doesn't know that, it's really hard for those people. So that's why I go all the way. You can miss this part, how to load the files and all that, and go to the next part. That will save you some time in the video. So we are good. Now we are going to go ahead and change the connection manager of a flat file, because every time the file name is changing when our for each loop is iterating. So we go to the properties, and here we go to the expressions, and then we are going to use the connection string. And in the connection string we will be using a file name variable that has full path for the file. So that has input folder / file name and extension. So here we hit OK. We are all good. This package will be loading the files. Next part we are going to deal with how to archive them. So bring the script task here now. First step is load all those files by using the for each loop. Once that's done, we will be archiving those files. So open the script task, go to the read only variables, and here you will be selecting the variables or the package parameters. In my case, I'm using a parameter, so I'm selecting package parameters. So in your case, you will be selecting variable. It's possible. So it doesn't matter. Same thing, same window you will be using. Hit OK. Now you will go to edit script. I'm using Microsoft Visual C#. You can use VB if you like. First of all, you will be adding or actually changing the framework. That's right now it is set to 4, and we need to change to 4.5 so we can make use of those different assemblies. Here we will be going to 4.5, and it will say okay, close it and reopen it. Fine. Close this one. Next part, we need to add these assemblies to the script task. Here we go to reference, right click, add reference, and then we'll be able to see targeting in .NET Framework 4.5, and we can add those assemblies from here. So the assembly we need is a system.io. It's right here, this one. So we need system.io compression.FileSystem. I would like to go ahead and do both of the assemblies, because there are functions or methods we will be using from both of them in this, not in this demo, but there are a lot of other videos I'm making on the zip and unzip, compress and compressor. So we'll be using different methods from both of these assemblies. So I'm going to add both of them, but in this case we are using system.io.compression.FileSystem. That's what the class we will be using from. So hit OK. Now once the assemblies are added, we have to go to the namespaces, and here we will be using them. So we'll be using system.io.compression. So there is small confusion. If you know that we were talking about system.io.compression.file.system, that was the assembly name, but in the namespace this is how you will be adding that. Now also, as we will be zipping the files and then deleting the files, we need some other classes as well. We from the one of the namespace we will be using system.io, so we can do file operations as well. So I'm adding these namespaces first. Then first of all, as we have used two parameters or variables, let's make use of them. So let's create two local variables here. So I'm going to create two of them, string input folder, and here we will be assigning the values coming from the SSIS package. We'll say dts.variables, and then we'll be saying, if you see here, I'm still using dts.variables. I'm going to make use of my package parameter, but this is the way you will be writing. So if you are using even a package parameter or project parameter, doesn't matter, you will be still saying dts.variables. So we will say package, then colon, and provide the name. So input folder, we have it here, dot value dot toString. Okay, so this is done. We have assigned the package parameter value to the input folder local variable here. We can copy and paste, make the things quick. Just copy paste, and here we say archive folder, and we have to change the package parameter name here. In your case, if you will be using the variables, I'm gonna make this change for you, so you can see we will not be using that, but here only thing you will be changing will be user. Just keep the same names what I have kept in the package, and you have to only change these two things. So instead of package $sign package and then you have parameter name, you will be saying user and your variable name. So let's get rid of them or uncomment them so we don't use them. Next, once we are done with the assigning the values to the local variables, we can create actually what I want to do in the archive folder. I don't want to just dump the file with the one name. I want to create a zip file with the DateTime, so I can add some values or DateTime to the archive folder right here. So what I want to do, I want to add, first of all, I want sales. My file should be starting with underscore, with sales word, and then it should have underscore, and then I want to add the date time to it. So we will use plus sign here and say date time dot now. This is going to give us the date time and dot toString. And what I want to do here, I want to provide some format that I would like to have. So I'm going to use YYY, and then we use MMDD, and here we will be using minutes, seconds, and if you are using milliseconds, all those kind of things. So we can change that. Let's just we have a day, and then we have hours, minutes, and seconds, and I don't really care about milliseconds and all those kind of things, so that's fine. And we will, that part is added, but also one more thing we want to add with that file we are going to create. It should be .zip extension. So we are all good. We have created a complete path, archive path for the files. Next part, what we are going to do here, we are going to perform the zipping. So we will use ZipFile class, and we'll use the method .create from directory, as we will be moving the files from the input folder. So we have an input folder here, and then we need to move these or zip these files to the archive folder here, and we already have built the names, sale underscore date time and all that. We will be using those two values here, and that's how it's going to work. So zip file will take the files from input folder and then will zip to the archive folder. So that's very simple, and this is done. This is the only line we need to use, but we have done a lot of work before, just how to load the files and all those kind of things. So next, once the files are loaded, next part is the next the files are zipped, we want to delete those files from the source. So one thing, we can stop here and save it and go back to the SSIS package and use the Foreach Loop Container and loop through the files and use the file system task to delete them. Another way, we can also write the code here to delete those files. So let's make use of a script task here and delete those files here. So we are going to use directory info, get the directory info. We'll say dir is equal to creating new object, and here we'll say directory info and providing the path, so that is input folder. That's where our files are. So now we have an instance of a directory info class that we will be using, and we will be looping through the files. So next part is we'll use for each loop the same way we use, and we'll use file info class, and we can call it file in, and we say directory, and inside the directory we will get the file names. So we are going to get the file names, and that's all. Next part is we have parentheses, and here we can say file.delete, not encrypt. Sorry, I don't want to encrypt that here, and we use this method to delete the files, and we are all good. So it's pretty easy. You will have just 5 or 6 lines of code. The same thing what we are doing there, we are using okay, we have to provide the input folder path, so we created with the directory object here by using directory info class, and then we use that in, and we got the file names from that directory by using the file info class, and then we use the for each loop to iterate through and delete those files. So let's save this package and go back here, hit OK, and we are all good. So here we will say zip and delete. Let's run our SSIS package and see what we get. In the input folder we have files, there are 2 files, and in the archive folder we don't have anything. And the next what I want to do, let me take copies for those input files, because I always recommend doing multiple. Let me see, I have a new folder here. I'm going to call this one backup and move these files there. So just in case we will need to rerun our, actually let me see one thing, I don't want to create the backup folder here, because we are just zipping everything from the input folder, and if there are folders here they will be zipped as well. So let me go ahead and create the backup folder here, and then we can paste the files here. I'm pasting it because next time I want to come back and rename these files, or even not rename these files, and just rerun package again and see if it is creating multiple zip file with DateTime every time I run the package. So multiple tests I want to do it. So right now in the archive we don't have anything, in the table we have no records, and let's go ahead and run the package now. Long package, huh? But I'm going to make a lot of other packages on the same zip and unzip and compression and uncompress techniques in SSIS, so you can learn a lot. So stop the package now, come back to the table. First of all, make sure we have the records. So we have records, the 2 records came from first file and the 2 records came from the second file. And one thing we want to take a look again, we went to archive folder here, and we see that sales underscore this file, zip file is created. It should have 2 files now. So we can see that those 2 files are there. So if you want to run it, open it, and we see that 2 records are here and 2 records are here. So that's how you will be loading the files, and then those files will be, and in the input folder they are not there anymore. So I can go to the backup now. If I go to backup folder I can copy this one, and let's go to input folder again. So we are doing multiple testing, making sure if next time we run it, what happened. So let's take these one. I just want to make more files here. So see, I have 4 files now in the input folder, and if I run this one, the 4 files should be loaded to the table, and then they should be archived, but its new zip file should be created with the, as we are using date and time. So let's go back and run our SSIS package one more time, just to make sure everything is working great for us. So it ran successfully. We see that new files can be added without anything. You don't have to work on those scenarios. You can just drop the file as long as the file has the same metadata. And here we see they are zipped, and all of them are in the new zip file. So you can see in the archive folder. So every time you run it, you will create a new zip file for already loaded files by your SSIS package. So that's it for this video, and the scripts are going to be available on the blog post. You can see that, and I will create different scenarios in the next video, and you can learn different techniques. So thanks very much, and I will see you next video.